This all starts with an email from a hunter just like you, and then a phone call. This is Joe Giglia from ElkBros.
Hey, Joe, what a surprise.
Beagle's right behind me. He's screaming back.
I was probably 19, 20 before I first got in the woods.
What you're about to hear is an actual phone call from myself calling someone just like you to talk about your elk hunt and the stories that came with it.
And they were just going crazy on September 3rd.
Where I could cut down and get back into the timber, and I had the wind in my face, which was perfect.
I think I got chills.
And then we're like, well, now what do we do?
Real people on real hunts sharing their experiences, the highs, the lows, the laughs, the learning moments, and we even talk strategies and possible alternatives to help other folks as well. My name is Joe Giglia. Welcome everyone to a special audio experience of Blue Collar Elk Hunting's Elk Camp Conversations.
Hello.
Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Good, man. Hey, I got to let you know, I just got done, I texted you were going to be getting a phone call, but I need to let you know before we get started, bud, that we're being recorded. You're going to be the man of the hour on our next episode of Elk Camp Conversations, if that works for you.
Yeah, it works for me.
All right, man. So for the people that are listening right now, Kyle, the whole idea of this, man, is that you and I, we're just going to talk about your elk hunt, some of the things that happen, your journey to get there. We're just going to have a conversation, man. I mean, here's your chance to ask those questions, to, have that conversation that you want to. The way that this occurred was I actually got an email from you that ElkBros had messed up.
Right. Yes, sir. But ended up being my mess up when I went back and checked everything out. And it was a miscommunication between me and my buddy when I got him that gift card for y'all's course.
Yeah. So
yep.
the whole thing was that you had purchased our course for a buddy of yours. You've actually taken our course?
Yes, I have. Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Because that's all going to fall into play here on your, I'm hoping that helped you out some on your first hunt, but you had bought this for a buddy and you thought that he hadn't get that information. You got a hold of me, and man, I tell you what, when I heard that somebody didn't get it, I was a little upset, and I just want to make sure I got it right for you. And come to find out, we did get it right. So that's
right.
All good. But in that process, you said something that caught my attention. And you were talking about the fact that you had killed your first elk. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So this was your first elk hunt this past year ever?
Yes, sir.
And you were successful.
Yeah, luckily, yes.
No, man. I don't want to hear that luck stuff. There ain't no luck to it, Bo. If you went out there and number one, you were in the woods, you were doing the things you needed to do. Yeah, we like to think, our first year we're a little bit fortunate or something like that. But one thing that I don't believe in luck. I believe luck is nothing but skill and opportunity meeting. So you had enough of the skill set, enough of the opportunity happened, and you probably did something to get into that opportunity to create that encounter, and it happened. So let's do this. First of all, I want to hear the story. Let's hear it, man.
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of start at the beginning. Me and a buddy decided we were going to go elk hunting, and decided we I've always wanted to do it for years since my dad went when I was a kid. And I finally just realized, if I don't just go do it, I may never do it.
How old are you now, dude?
I'm 37.
Okay.
So we set up to have about 9 days to hunt, or 9-day total trip,
Right.
About 6-7 days to hunt. And coming closer to it, I realized that we had a Memorial weekend off of work. And the way I took my days off, the way my work schedule is, only had one day I was working. So I called my buddy and I said, let's extend the trip. Let's go for, about 2 weeks. And he said, well, I can't. He said, well, why don't you go? And I talked to him a little bit, got off the phone, called my girlfriend and said, man, I really want to go, but I'll be going by myself, for the first week. Said, what do you think? Does this hinder, anything that you got going on you need help with or anything? And she said no. She said, go. So I decided to go and figured, man, why not? I'll just take it slow, because I've never been in the mountains or anything or any kind of altitude like that. And figured, well, I'll just go slow and I'll pace myself and, just kind of toe dip into it at first. And maybe I can get some scouting done at least before he gets up there.
Right.
So I went up to the unit that I was initially going to hunt, and it was I guess it'd say a disaster, to say the least. I got up there and I did, I've done other kind of like scouting courses, Tree Line Academy.
Okay.
And
absolutely. You've
one
done
of the
Mike
things that-
Livesay's course, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the things it said to do was to double, triple check, access points and stuff. And I, 3 apps, I think it was, I looked at it, looked like you get an ATV across. So the plan was kind of skirt along and be able to glass and just kind of figure things out. And I get up there and can't bring an ATV all the way across like I thought. I didn't call the state to make sure, so that was a hard lesson learned there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went ahead and started one area, and there's a bunch of hikers, and went down to the south end and hiked in and went up. I don't know what the elevation was. It was a lot. And realized there was one elk track. Couldn't find any sign that you look for.
Mm-hmm.
Woke up the next morning, which was opening morning, and decided I needed to get out of there. There was not near enough sign what I was hoping to be seeing.
That right there, when you were talking about luck, you have already made one decision that just totally changed the outcome of your hunt that a lot of people don't make. And, you cut your losses, you realize what was going on and decided to make, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, thank you. What I ended up doing is I come all the way out and got to the 4-wheeler and started driving back. My 4-wheeler breaks down.
Oh, no.
So then I had some guys end up seeing me. So they pulled up and asked me if I needed a tow. I said, oh, yeah. So they towed me back about a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile back to the truck. And I'm sitting there. We load up the 4-wheeler and talk to them a little bit. They leave, and I'm sitting in my truck. Here I am again, talking to my girlfriend, going, oh, no, I don't know what, don't know what I'm going to do exactly. So I might have to reset plans and, kind of figure this out. And some guys pull up and, loading up in another truck. So I asked her, I said, let me let you go. I'm going to go talk to them. So I went and talked to them and told them, 4-wheelers broke and stuff. I said, I said, I realized I can't get my truck through here. And they said, we can't even get our UTV through here. And there's a boulder in the road.
Oh, no.
So that completely has shut me down in that unit. And I said, is there anywhere else in here? And they said, no, not that they've seen. So got to talking with them. They're real nice guys. And they said, we're going over to this other unit we hunted last year. They said, you can get a truck, around the area pretty decent.
Uh-huh.
I said, well, okay. I said, and he said, well, here's my number, and we're going to be over in whatever creek it was. I forget.
So what state were these guys from?
Texas.
They were from Texas. Oh.
So I'm from Texas.
Uh-huh.
They're from Texas. And then these other guys that I told you about in the email that helped me pack outs from Texas.
So yeah, a lot of homeboys that help out.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. And we're all spread out across Texas, It's
Yeah.
It's pretty neat, But yeah, so I got in my truck, they left, and I scouted that unit for about 30 minutes. And I just picked the elkiest looking stuff that I could find and shot over there. It was about a 2.5 hour drive.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna stop you right there, man, because you said the elkiest looking stuff you could find. What made something look elky to you?
Well, I seen a lot of stacked benches. Saw steep draws, but it wasn't all steep. It was, it was near some other stuff that was more on your 20-degree slopes.
There you go.
And I could see aspens. It looked like a diversified type of ecosystem, I guess, is what it looked like to me. There's a couple meadows in there, but they were so close to the road, I really wasn't really focused on that.
Right.
And I could tell that there was water. It looked like there were some streams and stuff. And I guess that's really about it. I'd seen some saddles.
All right.
A couple saddles in there. And there was north-facing slopes. And it was not a whole lot.
So you're connecting the dots here. You're just trying to, you can see saddles, and you're getting across from one ridge to the other. You've got the 20-degree slopes. You've got the different types of vegetation. You got water, and you got small meadows. And with those type of benches, they could actually be string-type meadows that bench from one to the other. Right now, man, you're getting an A+ on the course right now, boss.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, so what I ended up doing is I just shot over there, slept in my truck that night, hit the ground I picked out 3 main locations, hit the first one, seen a little bit of elk sign, still not what I want to see. And then my second location, I started seeing a whole lot more poop.
Well, Kyle, what type of locations were they? I mean, were you on the top of ridges? Were you in the bottoms? Were you along the creek? What type of locations were you looking at?
So the first spot, it was kind of like a draw, and it had some long meadows in there. Okay. And some aspens. That was the first location.
So it was like the bottom of kind of almost like a drainage type area?
Yeah, I would say it was probably around the 9,000, 9,500 elevation.
So was it in between ridges or?
So it was kind of more at the bottom of this mountain.
All right, gotcha. So you're just barely, because most of these areas they start like 8,500 anyway, right? In that area.
Right. Yes, sir.
So that was the first area. What was the second area like?
Second area was up around 11,000 feet. And it was mainly what I was describing earlier. Okay. Was all of that. And then I just parked at a gate and walked in and started looking, and that's where I started finding the tree rubs and the poop, and end up that afternoon I ended up running into a couple beds, and so this is day 3. So I find a couple beds, and I get to, and I'm not on top, but I'm about 3/4 the way up. Okay, gotcha. Of this area of the mountainside. Right. I get on the north facing slope, and I went ahead and hit a bugle to see if I could just hear anything. And then I heard something, and I was like, oh man. I can't believe that's happening that quick. And so I bugled back, got another call, and I just started sprinting downhill because he was a good ways away. Okay. So I sprinted down as fast as I could. So can I ask you what time of day? I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump in every now and then. I hope I don't make you lose your thought, but can I ask you what time of day and stuff it was? I want to say it was around 8 o'clock, I believe, in the morning. Yep, 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it started going down, and then got into the calling, and as it got closer, I could hear chuckling, and then, I called back, but I was calling away from me to try to make me sound like I was further away as I got closer. And then when I got close, I knew I was somewhere around, 150 yards or so, or thought I was. I directed my call towards the call, and we got into screaming, cutting each other off, and I alarm barked, and then they alarm barked, challenge bugled me, and then I froze, and I was like, "Oh, what do I do now?" And then
So
with the
were
silence,
they just staying put at that 150 yard distance with all of this going on?
yes, yep, they were. So as I froze, I don't know how long it was. I want to say about a minute or so goes by, and I hear a whistle, and I went, "Okay, yep, I got tricked. That's somebody." So I attempted to whistle back, and my mouth was dry, and, and I couldn't whistle back. Finally, I gave a whoop, and here they come out, and I didn't know the guys. They didn't know me. They knew I was a new caller. They said, you sounded timid. They said, you did a lot of stuff right. Said the only thing I didn't do right was I alarm barked, and I should alarm barked bugled, before they did, because that's like the last final straw in the sand, of at least that's what they're telling me. And and we had a good laugh and joked around about it and stuff, how they called me in and stuff, and after that I went on back up the mountain, and and went and sat on what I was thinking was a wallow for midday, ate my lunch, and started scouting again. Well, when I was coming back, I could smell something that I thought was elk. Smelled like that musty smell. And
Is there anything you could compare that smell to?
It smelled like strong piss, really.
Yeah.
it
Human piss,
just,
cow piss, horse piss?
man, not really.
Okay.
It just I don't know how to explain it, besides it's just a musty, pissy smell.
Okay. I'm with you, man. Because for me, it's like every time I smell it, I mean, a lot of times you can smell moo cow urine, when they roll and stuff, and it smells a lot like elk, but it's not as sweet musty, I guess. It's not as what an elk is, but a lot of people will mistake it for that sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it may have been. Well, I say that if I'm right with how I ended up killing an elk, I don't know if I was right or wrong, because there was cows in the area. So that possibility it could be, but where the smell was coming from was more dense wooded area.
Okay, gotcha.
And I thought to myself, I said, I'm not going to go in there, because if I do and they're there, they're going to bust me before I can ever probably see them.
Right, because now it's after 8 o'clock. Now you're getting up in time, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So would you say you're at 10, 11, noonish? Where are you at now?
Yeah, I would say I'm around noon is what about where I think I'm at.
So you made a real good conscious decision right there, because at noon they're absolutely bedded someplace, right? Most likely. And
right.
And if they are bedded, they've got the advantage if you start to move in on them. So good choice. You got my interest up, man. I'm loving the story.
So at that point, I just figured, well, I'm just going to keep going and scouting. It's my first day in that area. I'm seeing poop, but I'm not seeing what it doesn't look as fresh as what I would think I would like. At the time, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of thinking, through y'all's course and stuff is showing, it dark on top and green, and,
Yeah.
down underneath and all that. It looks like it's a couple days old,
Okay.
is what I'm guessing. And so I keep going scouting, and I ended up bumping a huge bull. And I'd walk and I'd cow call. This whole time I've hunted, I'd do that. I'd walk and cow call a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yep.
And pay attention and just take my time. And then in between cow calling, I walked a ways, and I stopped, and I heard something. I looked over to my left, and there about 50 yards is this big old elk body. And I can't see the head at this point. I can just see the elk. So I go ahead and knock an arrow, because I don't know if it sees me or not. And then it starts trotting away from me. And I just see this rack. Joe, it was so big. And I was just, excited and still confused. What should I do? Run into that scenario. And he didn't just blast off. He just kind of trotted off a little bit, just like slow.
Yeah.
So
So you're walking along, you're cow calling, right? And when you spot this bull, like if you're looking forward and that's 12 o'clock, where do you spot this bull off of? To your right, to your left, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock?
I mean, directly to my left. I was parallel with him on the mountain.
So as you're walking, you're cow calling, and you have this bull basically that walks in on you while you're cow calling.
I don't know if he walked in on me or if he got up out of a bed.
No, he absolutely came into you, man. Now he may have stood up and something like that, but if you've been cow calling and moving, it happens so much, that bulls will be coming in silently. And you said this is like day 3 of the hunt, so you're like September 3rd or 4th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got early season, you're moving, making cow calls, and you have this bull that comes in. And that's what he does, man. He comes in silently. And that's one of the things that I try to tell people, too, is that, that whole stopping and listening like you're doing. And you actually did spot him, but he most likely caught movement, wasn't sure exactly. You weren't exactly what he was looking for when he caught that movement. But yet he still heard elk, so he wasn't like totally freaked out. He didn't go blowing out of there. He just turns and trots away, right?
Right.
Yeah, how cool is that? So what's going through your head now when you see this big rack going away from you like that?
I considered my hunt a success at that point. To be honest with you, at that point, I had it in my head before the trip even started. For months I thought, with the low percentage of you actually killing one, I figured if I actually seen an elk and got myself in the right area, that I was being successful. I was going to consider that a successful, hunting trip. So at that point I was excited, that I even seen one. Yeah. It was really.
Did that like
really
change any of your mentality, Kyl? Like when you were calling and moving now, did it make you rethink what you were doing? Did you change anything? What was your thought process after, you've been doing this and you saw that bull?
Well, after I saw that bull and that happened, I thought, well, I must have been, maybe I felt like I was going so slow, but maybe not slow enough.
Okay.
And it made me really realize, that, also, beginning early season, I hear that they don't call as much. So I thought, well, maybe that's, maybe the pressure. There seemed like a lot of people up around the area. And a lot of things ran through my mind, trying to figure out, what do I need to do? How do I need to change?
Yeah, sure.
Or to try to figure out,
So what was your
hindsight,
conclusion, man? What did you decide?
Well, at that point, I decided I'm going to move and stop and call and wait a little bit.
All right, awesome.
Before I move again. And again, as as that my first initial thought, I'm kind of scouting more than hunting. You know, I'm kind of
Yeah.
taking in the mountains and the scenery and the,
Oh,
you
heck
know,
yeah.
and never done it, never been in the woods. I mean, in the mountains like that. And I was really just kind of taking everything in, kind of trying to do a little more scouting than hunting. Not expecting to, you know, to have that kind of encounter that quick, you know.
That's when it happens, dude.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so what I ended up doing after that is, because of the way he trotted off and stuff, I gave it a little bit, and then I just kind of walked through. I wanted to see, you know, where he was at. Was he in a bed? Was he, you know, whatever? Is he still hanging around? The way that he moved off, it kind of went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I would be blocked from him seeing me. So I went and looked at the area and realized that I was in a swirling wind. The way that the I don't want to use canyon because that's big, but it's just like a little bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And where he was, it was like a little cliff out area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was thinking, well, maybe he was, you know, laying down here or something, you know, just bedded up or whatnot. But so I started moving a little bit further that way, which is probably a mistake. I probably should have just backed out and gave him some time, but I figured I probably boogered it up. But I heard him going around the mountain some more. So he didn't go far and he didn't keep going.
Mm-hmm.
He just hung out. So I realized, well, I'm bumping him. So I went up. I said, well, I'm going to try it. I'm here. So I went up about 100 feet elevation, trying to get above him, and moved along. And it's been some time, you know, it's been 30, 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour by the time I actually got up there and caught my breath and, you know, calmed down where I could call better. And started walking through, and then I started finding better poop sign, fresher poop, and I could start seeing where the leaves and stuff were being eaten. You could tell things were browsing through there,
Mm-hmm.
which could be cow, but I'm assuming it's elk.
Yeah.
And as I go through, I'm kind of cow calling and stuff again, but I'm going a lot slower. And then I get that whiff, that pissy, musty smell again. And what I think happened was, I think he heard me, and I think what he did was he came up above me to probably catch what I was, I'm guessing.
Trying to get your scent.
Yeah, or I just crossed his path by chance.
Mm-hmm.
But went through and you know, none of that worked out. And so I worked my way around and kept scouting and looking and calling, and walked up this logging road.
And so you're still cow calling, right?
I'm still cow calling. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And went up to the end of this, walked the logging road, and was, you know, looking and took a seat on a cut log, and got me a snack, got me some water, and I just stopped cow calling and sat around and didn't hear anything, sat there for about 15, 20 minutes, and I started heading back. I said, well, it's getting time that I think I want to try to beat those elk out and get ready for when I thought that they were in an area bedding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started heading that way to get set up for the afternoon.
So
And
Kyle, are you like in these areas where you're like following track and where you're finding sign and stuff? Are you marking or you know saving where these areas are at all somehow?
Oh yeah, I'm marking tree rubs. I'm marking, you know, if I found a bed, water, wallows, anything that I find through
All
the
right.
way. I was marking everything. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah. So as I'm going through, from where I sat, it was about 250 yards to where that area was.
So really, you
Well,
hadn't gotten too far from where you originally were up in that area then.
I really haven't. I moved slow. I just was very cautious and visual about my surroundings and sign, and trying to learn the area real well, and really trying to find good poop sign,
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was walking through, I seen this big old rub through the trees. And I thought, I'm like, I'm gonna go over there and go look at that. Well, as I turn around the corner of the spruce tree, this little spruce tree, I look, and there's this elk just broadside looking at me with a rack on it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a bull. And as soon as I came around the corner, I tucked back, and I knocked my arrow, and I leaned back out. I made a mistake. I should have squared up and took a step back, and I didn't. I leaned out. I thought I wasn't going to have a long time to make a shot. I'm used to whitetail hunting. And when I leaned out, I seen him at 40 yards, and everything was smooth. I didn't have no adrenaline going, nothing. And I shot, and I gut shot at him. And I felt sick instantly.
So
when that
were you back mid body? Were you back low?
I was right at the crease.
Mm-hmm.
Center body is where I was shooting.
So
Well,
okay.
What happened was I had my release hand, because I did not step out squared up properly. My wrist was caught, and I believe that's what slung that arrow.
Yeah, no, so I can totally relate. So I actually had the very same thing happen to me just this season as well, leaning around a tree. And I'm an instinctive shooter, and prior to this whole adventure of trying to use a release and all that stuff, because somebody had purchased a bow for me, and so this whole thing of doing a release is a whole lot different story, and I did just the same thing, man. I leaned out from, to get a shot around a tree with a bull 18 yards away from me, and it totally changed my anchor the way I leaned out and made me shoot way to the, well, not way, but enough to the left that I didn't hit where I wanted to. So no, I mean, absolutely. So for everybody listening, on this, that's, for me, that's one of them things that I'm absolutely going to be practicing, leaning around a tree or an object and taking a shot and getting myself used to that. So I totally feel you, dude. And that's most likely what happens. So you end up, now when you say at the crease, so your arrow goes in at the crease?
No, it totally slung to the left. I gut shot at him.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
There was no liver. It was guts.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, I instantly felt sick. He ran off, and about 15 cows and calves ran out to my left,
Mm-hmm.
and just stopped at about like 30 yards.
Okay.
And I'm just in awe. I'd never even seen him. I just saw him when I rounded that spruce tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there and looked at them, and they, took a few seconds and looking at me, and then slowly just trotted off. And so I knocked an arrow, and I said, man, I'm gonna just walk up a little bit and just see if he stopped, if I could just kind of, because you could see, about 50 yards or so through the woods.
Okay.
And I started walking. I didn't go maybe 10 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and there he was laying on the ground, and his head was rocking back and forth. He was on his belly. It wasn't on his side. He was on his belly. So I ranged him. He was 60 yards. So I put an arrow, I had my arrow in, and everything was calm, squared up right, and sunk one right into his lung. And then I got another arrow. I'm gonna pump as many as I can.
Insurance, huh?
Yeah. So I did another one, and then I started shaking. Then the adrenaline started coming, and I pulled that one about 6 inches, but I hit his spine, luckily,
Uh-huh.
and he his breathing was getting slow. He was,
Did he
his head
jump
was
up after
laying.
the second arrow hit him?
He never did. He never budged.
Oh,
He
he
just
did.
laid there, which I wish, I was by myself. I've
Mhm.
never done this before.
Right.
Never cleaned an animal that big. I wish I'd have took more time, but by the time I shot him it was about 4:30,
Okay.
and so I rushed through a lot more than what I wish I could. I wish I could have done more, looking, where the arrows exactly went and stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because I don't know what I still wanted to stay. What did I hit around that gut area that just hurt him so bad?
That is so crazy because mid-body like that, a buddy of mine hit one this year almost exactly like that back, and would have thought that booger, would have, gone till he got sick, and
Hmm.
found him dead, man, rolled up and dead. And I'm like you. I wish I could have gone in and seen exactly. I don't know if he got some kind of artery in there. I don't, that it's amazing. Or if he got part of liver, or it's crazy. Yeah, you just wonder what in the
Yeah.
heck that got him to go down so quick like that. But hey, man, number one, he did. You recognize it, and number two, you got that next arrow in him, and that's absolutely the right thing to do. You put a third insurance in there, and he didn't jump up on that one, did he?
No, he never budged.
He
Second
was
or
a
third arrow, he never budged.
he was a sick puppy. What kind of broadheads were you using?
Tough head broadheads.
So is that a fixed 3 blade? What is that?
It's a fixed single blade,
Okay,
or
single
yeah,
bevel 2 blade, right?
single bevel 2 blade.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, 'cause that well, fantastic, man. You got some stuff tore up and bleeding, put him down. All right, so now all the shakes are coming in, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh man. And I tell you, I didn't stop there, Joe. I started looking for that gut shot arrow. Is what I did. I started looking for, because I knew it was a pass through,
Uh-huh.
and I ran out of arrows, so I started looking for it. I was gonna try to find it and stick another one in him, but I couldn't find it, and I was watching him, and his breathing was really, really slow, and I
Mhm.
knew he was really going down. So
Right.
I just sat there and waited till he was done.
Yep.
And then yeah, you talk about a roller coaster of emotions through that first shot all the way to knowing he's down and dead.
Even and I'm gonna kind of take you there, man, because even in that moment, I mean, I've sat with a lot of animals that were expiring, that are getting ready to die, and you talk about that roller coaster of emotions, So what you're sitting there and listening to all that, what's going through your mind at that time?
At the time of watching him,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
man, just an overwhelming sensation of this actually happened. Like was
Yeah.
going through my head. Like this,
Mhm.
I actually got an elk. Is actually happened. It was crazy. It was crazy, and that quick. I
Yeah.
was just, like I said, a successful hunt would be me seeing something in 2 weeks. Was how I was approaching everything, and I just did not think that anything like this was going to happen.
And that's one of the things that I talk to guys about, and that's one of the things that, I mean, you took my course, right? And
Yes, sir.
and one of the things that I try to make sure that people understand is that you have to go into those woods knowing and believing that that can happen. And I think there's so many people that go in just like you did. It's like, well, if I call one, then that's a success, which that's one of the goals, man, right? That's one of the successes that happen along the way. But, really, you're going in there to punch that tag. And, when I hear you like looking at it and you're going, "I'll be son of a gun, I actually did this, man." You were more as surprised as that elk was. It sounds like.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was very surprised.
Uh, I just the first animal. When I talk to people about their first animal like that, and you really had some things that happened there because, like when you see that bull for the first time, what happens is you actually start to believe that what you're doing is working, right?
Yes. Yep.
And that makes a change in you. And now, and I hope you realize something, man. I had a buddy that did the same thing. First year out, first day of the hunt for him, and he ends up killing his first bull. And he's like, "This is easy." And then this year he got his hat handed to him. This year, it's like
Yeah.
like that first time gambler that goes in and throws all his money on the roulette table and hits.
Right.
You start throwing it every time you go, thinking that's supposed to happen. But and honestly, dude, it is supposed to happen if you're doing the things to create that to be able to happen. And you're doing so many things right in this, Kyl. I mean, as I'm listening along, you can't see me. We're on the telephone, and I'm just sitting here smiling, and I'm listening to the things that have stuck into you. And the one thing that I'm hoping has stuck into you now is that you're a believer that when you go out in those woods with that bow in the hand, that you know for a fact now that yes, you can harvest a bull out there, that it absolutely can happen, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, definitely now. Yeah, definitely now. That definitely made a believer out of me. At least know I did something right. And I know I've made some mistakes too. I got a whole nother, week and a half of hunt or a week with my buddy.
Right.
That we did make some mistakes.
Well,
and stuff.
and those are going to be the great things to talk about here as we're going here, talking about this story. But here you are, you've got this bull. You walk up to it. What's the first thing that you realize, man?
That it's bigger than I thought. Yeah, I've down. I'm in East Texas, Southeast Texas,
Yeah.
and a big deer for us, is, or our average weight is 150, 160 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Average. And you get a big deer's like 180 pounds. For us.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, "Whoo, here comes the work," the old cliche you hear, it's like, yeah, here it is, never cleaned anything on the ground like this, don't know how much meat's going to fit in the bags. And,
right.
It's just looking at this. And I was like, well, I don't have very much, daylight left, don't know how long this is going to take me. It was like, I better get started.
So what was the decision? So what was the process? What did you decide to do?
So as far as cleaning it.
Yeah. I mean, right now you've got this thing in front of you, and honestly, man, it's exactly right. You look at this bull and you're like, the realization hits that, oh my God, man, now I've got to get this thing out of here. I mean, you thought you were surprised at the fact you killed one. Now you got to figure out how to get one out of there.
Oh yeah. And the temperatures were not very favorable.
Right.
At that time of year. They were, I want to say I think the low may have been the high 50s.
Right.
At that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh man, I got to hike back.
How far? How far out are you?
Well, as a crow flies, I was a mile.
Okay.
So as the route I had to take was about, I think it was 1.8, I think is what we tracked.
All right, cool.
Later on, I didn't track it on the way out, but
yeah, very doable, man. Very doable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say, it wasn't a steep incline back, but more than half of it was uphill. Mm-hmm. And I realized on that hike back, I said, I want one front quarter with the bone in it. I just have always wanted to do, you know, some bone marrow type things, and
Right.
shanks and stuff, whatever. And I was like, I'm getting one out. And I figured, you know, I deboned everything off the bone, put it in the bags, hung it in the tree where the way the sun was coming across, it would give it the most shade
Right.
that I could. I didn't have any to get to any kind of low, you know, creeks or anything like that, you know, where cooler temperatures was way far.
What time?
out.
You said it's 4:30 though, man. At least you're in the afternoon part of the sun, right?
Yes, right. Yep. So I got everything hung up and you know, hiked that quarter out, and Joe, I'm not gonna lie, that about killed me. I was hurt. I'd go 10 steps and would have to lean on my sticks and thought, don't sit down, because I don't know if I'm gonna get back up, you know. So
what kind of pack are you using, man?
Mystery Ranch.
Okay, so you have it inside like a meat shelf and close to your body and everything like that, right?
Yep, did all that correctly.
You got
Got
sticks.
real tight. Yep, got my sticks.
Oh, you're in pretty good shape. You just you just discovering what it's like to go uphill with weight.
Oh yeah, yep. That was a very memorable, you know. But it stuck in my mind. You know, the people that you see on YouTube saying a lot of this is mental. You know, you got to keep mentally good.
Yeah.
You know, keep it in mind and keep positive and keep driving.
Right.
So it was at about the last point, you know, to the truck was, you know, just 10 more steps. You know, I just kept making 10 more steps.
There you go.
And then resting. And yeah, I got up to the truck. I just wiped out, fell down on the ground, and took me a good 5-minute break before getting up, you know, and put the quarter in the back of the truck, and I knew there was a camp, you know, down the road.
Right.
So I went to them and didn't know, excuse me, didn't know at the time they were from Texas either, but went up to them and you know, they come walking out, you know. One guy was making a joke. He's, "Oh, you got an elk for us?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "By the way, that I will pay any one of y'all to come help me pack this thing out." And they all, you know, were excited and you know, congratulations and stuff. And one guy started heading off to go get his pack. I said, "Whoa, we can wait until the morning." You know, I said, "I got everything hung." And they said, "We're not taking no money." He said, "But we'll come help you."
Uh-huh.
So they came and the next morning we met up about 6 o'clock and went in with help and
How many other guys went with you?
There was four.
Oh,
four
man,
other guys
you were in high
came.
cotton now.
Man, I tell you, they had a couple guys want to see if they could just do it themselves too, you know.
Oh yeah.
And
I love
they
those
were,
guys.
Oh yeah, believe me, we've made good friends. They made it a whole lot easier on me. And luckily that night I didn't pay attention to the weather, which was a mistake of mine. But luckily that night it got down in the 30s.
Oh, awesome.
Low 30s.
Perfect.
So it cooled that meat down good and everything. So yeah, we went back and the next morning I slept in a little bit before I did some grouse hunting. But yeah, we got together that night after and cooked up elk backstrap and had some good conversations.
Y'all were having that is special, isn't it?
Oh man, it is one of the highlights of the whole 2 weeks, you know, was being able to be up there, you know, initially by myself, and then, you know, guys share a camp with me and good food and conversation, you know, it was good.
That's awesome, dude. Well, let's jump ahead, man, because you have a buddy that joins you.
Yeah. So so I go a few days, you know, kind of doing some grouse hunting and stuff and talking with some people around there. Went and brought my meat in to a butcher for him to hang and keep and my buddy gets up, and as soon as my buddy gets up there, we're setting up his tent and stuff, and I'm like, hey, this altitude's no joke. Like, you want to, take a little bit of time. And he looked at me, he said, no. He was like, I'm ready, So we packed in and went and did a little more, a little bit more scouting, more hunting now that I kind of know what's going on, but we still got a lot of scouting to do.
Right.
And that I believe that first day, or maybe it was the second day, we ended up, I was calling, glunking, I stayed off of the bugles. It just seemed like everything was just quiet, and other people I talked to in the meantime, no one's heard any bugles or anything. So I kind of stayed off of the bugling and tried to go with more low key sounds,
I'm still smiling, boss. I'm still smiling.
Yeah. So as we're discovering some new territory, I'm sitting there glunking and cow calling, and all of a sudden I see something move through the trees about 30 yards, and I can see the silhouette, and it's an elk. And I tell my buddy, I tap him on the shoulder and point. It says behind them trees, and here's where the first mistake of the trip with me and him happened. I tried to move away and call, and he stepped to get a better angle, and it just seen us. I still don't know what it was, cow or bull or what, but it ended up taking off.
So is this like is it like almost dark or?
Oh no! So at this time, it's he got up there, I think around 9 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So I want to say by the time we got in that area, I think it's about 1, 2 o'clock, something like that.
Okay, gotcha. Good.
In there. And so we bumped that one and moved on through and kept hunting and found a lot more signs, found bedding area, found went back to around where I shot my bull and found more bedding area, found fresh poop, and just started really seeing sign and really starting to put some things together. Kind of what we think at the time of what's going on. So I know we had that experience, and I want to say the next day we went, that morning we hiked back in where I shot my bull, and we came up where I shot my bull. They were kind of right on the edge of like a cliff out area. It wasn't big. It was 30, 40 feet tall. So what we decided was we were going to come in, because everything we ever did through the whole trip, we always checked our wind and our thermals.
Right.
Always. And presented what we had that morning, it was beneficial for us to come in, and we went up to the top because we were hoping that maybe there was some elk bedded down right there on the other side of that cliff. And so as we get up there, there's nothing there. And so I let out a few cow calls, and we're sitting there, second mistake, didn't set up, just cast some calls, and in about 5 minutes, here comes another bull walk up about 80 yards from us, and he's as big as my bull or bigger, and
so how big was your bull?
He was a 6x6.
Wow. Nice mature representation then.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty good at understanding deer age, looking at them on the hoof. I'm not real familiar with elk.
Right.
But I would guess mine was 2-3 years old. I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably 4-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like 235 inches is what he was.
Okay.
Roughly.
All right.
I don't know if that gives any kind of estimate or not, but but yeah, he came out and stopped, and everything that you hear about, that 80-yard span, and we were both in shock and awe, and the first thing I thought was, we're not set up, was the first thing.
Yep.
And what hindsight, I should have, because I was on a hill. What I should have done was I should have turned and casted cow calls behind me.
Yeah.
To make them think that they walked around the corner.
Yeah.
Is what I should have done.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I hesitated, and it didn't take very long, and he got nervous, and he turned around and
trotted
left.
off.
Yep.
Now, he never barked or anything like that, right?
Never barked. Nope.
Yeah. So if he didn't make any noise like to get you move, he definitely, saw something he didn't like and already deciphered it. If he hasn't deciphered what you are, that's when he'll do that bark, or that bark chuckle or something like that, trying to get you to move. But if he just looks and he's got it figured out and he turns and moves off, he's got your number.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely had it. Because we tried different calling, and stuff.
Ain't happening.
Moved around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't happening. No.
No, but this is now the second elk you guys seen in the same morning.
This is, yes. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. No, it was.
I mean, same afternoon.
Trying to remember the days how this happened.
Mm-hmm.
He got up there. We went, seen an elk. The next morning, ran into this elk.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, called this elk in, and then the rest of that day, we were finding more sign of stuff. Never ran into another one.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly if we skipped a day or what. We've not seen an elk, or there's 2 times we went and tried a different area.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we did, by lunch, we were going, what are we doing? We've been in elk, why are we leaving?
Why are we leaving elk to find elk?
Yeah. And we went back, you take a day or a day and a half or so of not running into something. When you're consistently doing it, then you think, oh, well, did we bump them out? Did we, is there too much pressure? Is there, things like that? Because you're all over the mountainside, and, we were covering one whole mountainside. So kind of start feeling like you're pressuring the area a little bit, But again, don't know. This is our first time doing it, so we're trying something new. So we'd go back and we'd end up, the next day bumping another one. Or, we had some cows we bumped on 3 different occasions. And that's where I don't know. Me and him have talked about this time and time again on, where we're hunting, you're more seeing anywhere from 30 to 60 yards is around that, through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And we were wondering, we're like, how, we've went slow, we've went at normal walking pace, we've tried so many different things, but they were always silent, and whether it was a cow or a bull,
right, and
we were bumping them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we were wondering, where are we going wrong, or what could we do different?
Well, so
to not get that situation.
So first of all, it's where you're going right, and then the things that you got to change to be able to have that encounter finish out, because what you guys are doing is absolutely putting you in encounters, man, because you have elk coming into you silently, so elk are actually looking for you. And I think it's pretty cool, because this is your first year, and I've never heard you call before, but I don't know, what the quality of your calls were, but absolutely you were doing something that was, getting elk to come in and come to you. So I don't know how much you practice, how much time you put into practice and all that in your calling, how comfortable you felt with it. Were you using mouth calls? Were you using external calls? What were you using?
I was using diaphragms. So the year before, around September, previous, that's when I decided I'm going to go elk hunting.
Right.
And I started buying buying diaphragm calls. I turkey hunt, so
Okay,
I'm a
so
little familiar with it,
cool. Yeah.
and which was a little learning curve. It's different,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's not
but
as snappy. It's not as snappy as a
no,
turkey call. Yeah.
right. So I've practiced from, I'd say October all the way to September when we went hunting.
Awesome, man.
I stayed pretty consistent on it and did a lot of
So
studying, a lot of, you know.
so it's definitely paying off for you, Kyle, man, because so when you say what are we doing wrong? First of all, I want to say you're doing a lot right. I mean, you're doing a heck of a lot right. The other part is just okay. Well, then how in the heck do we spot them before they spot us? And that's a big one, man, right there. And when I'm moving through and I'm doing something like that, and Manano does it all the time, man, where we just stop and he'll cup his hands around his ears, and he'll listen. Because generally, if you're moving, you've got the wind moving in a certain direction, right? So there's most likely an angle that you don't have to worry about. So if I have a crosswind that's coming across my face and it's going from my right to my left, I'm generally not going to have to worry about something below me and to my left, but out there, still going 11 o'clock, maybe even 10 o'clock, where they can't hit that scent, they can angle into me. And I can get mostly things coming from all the way anywhere on my right side, that's coming in. So we're going to cup and we're going to listen, and we're not listening for a bugle. We're not listening for an elk verbal response. We're listening to environmental sounds. Are we hearing a rock roll? Are we hearing a branch, break? Are we hearing a foot against a log? Are we hearing anything in the leaves? What sucks, and everybody that's hunted elk, has learned to hate squirrels, man, because they'll start, especially that time of year, they're dropping them friggin' pine cones off from the top of the trees and they're thumping and stuff. And, or you'll hear them chatting. And I'll tell you something else. When I hear a squirrel chattering that I know's not me, I'm really stopping and listening and looking in that direction, because they're generally chattering at something. They're chattering at another critter that's disturbed them in there, just like they do us, man, when we're there. So that's one thing that kind of tips me off a little bit sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But we'll sit there, and as we're going to listen, and man, we're looking. You take a couple of steps and we're looking, but just stopping and really listening while you're doing that. And it doesn't mean you have to stop throwing out a cow call here and there. You can still do that, but you're going to stay still, because let's say, just picture them, man. Just picture that this elk is moving, this elk is feeding, it's moving on elk time. It's not just coming boom, boom, boom right to you like a person that you're calling, right? They're coming in, but they're just like you. When you're going through the woods and you've heard an animal, either you've heard a bugle or you've heard anything or you've heard a sound, you're going to move. And then all of a sudden you're going to go, okay, so which direction are they now? And you're going to stop and you're going to listen and try to re-pinpoint that before you do anything, right?
Right.
They're going to do the exact same thing, man. They're going to stop, and they're going to be, have those radar ears out, and they're going to try to figure out, okay, what direction, let me pinpoint that is. Then if you make another call without moving, they're going to hear that, and they got that pin, and now they start to move again. And when they do, they could have been 40 yards away, 50 yards away, and all of a sudden you hear a noise or you see a movement, and now you have that. So I always like to, once I've stopped and started listening, I still like to throw a call out every now and then while I'm sitting there looking and listening, so that if something has gotten in the vicinity, I'm giving them an opportunity to come into me without them catching me moving or hearing my noise. Now, I don't mind making a noise when I'm doing that. Like, you can actually, make some noise with the feet, so that they hear other elk and they come in. In fact, sometimes doing environmental noises are better than doing a cow call or doing a grunt or anything like that, because they're already moving in and they're trying to hear elk moving. And when they hear just that, the rolling of a rock, or they hear a footfall or something like that, that's exactly what they're listening for to move in that direction, because that's other elk according to them. So I think it's just you being able to understand how to move as you're going through, and knowing that, and knowing and believing and knowing and believing that elk are coming into you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So that's
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and that's the biggest part of it is just having that true belief and knowledge that, and you have to imagine, I'm moving through, I've been calling for a while, I haven't seen anything for a while. Could something be coming in from the side, from the front, to this side? And you just really want to see that. Even if you take and just make some foot noises and you move ahead 2 steps, now you're going to stop because now you get a whole different angle. And most deer hunters understand this. And I'm not telling you to hunt like a deer hunter silently. You want to do just the opposite. You want to move with your feet making noise. But when you get that new angle and you're stopped, now you want to look around and you're looking for that patch, you're looking for that change, you're looking for that horizontal line, you're looking for that flick of an ear, you're looking for just a slight movement and that you can fix in on, man. So that's the only thing I would tell you is that part of it, just being ready and understanding that you have animals sneaking in on you. When you truly believe that and you understand that animals are coming into you and they're not going to announce themselves, you hunt differently, man, because you know that the only way you're going to kill them is if you spot or hear an animal that's coming into you silently first.
And I tell you something, something that surprised me and my buddy was how quiet they were.
Oh,
and even when we bumped them,
yep,
and they took off,
yep,
it was like, did you hear anything? Because I didn't.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how quiet a 700-pound animal can be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's unbelievable. So let me ask you this, man. You guys are hunting. Did you have anything else that there was a question or something that you felt that you did wrong or something that you would have liked to have had a little bit of an answer to? Or what was one of those other, what you felt was mistakes along the way?
Well, I know when we did, there was one morning out of the 2 weeks we did hear bugling.
Mm-hmm.
And we, fired up, got on them, as fast as we could. We had to go a long ways. I think we dropped like 1,400 feet to get to them.
Okay.
And
up or down?
Down.
Okay.
I think that when we were getting close,
mm-hmm,
I think I tried to make a situation happen
mm-hmm,
instead of actually calling and maybe taking a little bit of time and trying to read more of the situation.
mm-hmm.
Is what I come to my conclusion, after harping on this for a few months. Yeah, I think that, and I really the biggest thing that I've not been able to really figure anything out was what we talked about. Mm-hmm. With the bumping into them.
Right.
I didn't know if maybe they were just in the area and we walked too much.
No,
and called and walked into them, or
mm-hmm,
if they were coming and we just never heard them. Maybe we were walking too much, couldn't hear them.
Yeah, most likely they're coming into you, or most likely they're in the area and they're comfortable because you're announcing yourself as an elk as you're coming into it, and they're kind of checking every now and then to see who the other elk is, and then they catch your movement, so they get you spotted that way. But they're either in the area comfortable because they know other elk are coming in, so they're comfortable, or they are actually moving into the area because of the calls that you're making. So that's where you just really, you just have to, sometimes I get down a little bit lower, I just kind of sit down a little bit, and so I can see things with a different angle rather than being up, because when you're up there, a lot of those tree branches start about 4 foot and go up. Sometimes when you get down below a little bit, you get a little bit better angle. of that stuff. So
That's a good point. I'm gonna definitely use that next time.
yeah, absolutely. And when you go down, you just kind of periscope down. I do the same thing when I'm going over hills. So if there's a change in the terrain and I'm moving forward and I can see that the trail is kind of going up to a different rise that I can't see, I get down really, really low, and as I'm getting to where that elevation is changing, I periscope up. So instead of just walking over that on that trail over that rise, I'm going to move up. I'm going to get as low as I can, and I'm going to kind of periscope up and barely let my eyes get over the rise and check the area. And I'm not looking just in front of me, man. No, don't get tunnel vision. You got to look, and you got to kind of slowly move your eyes and slowly move your head and scan, and then check on direction. And then what I do is I periscope down, I move forward, and then I periscope up again until I can absolutely see the whole area that I'm moving into, but I'm periscoping up. So if there's critters in there, they're not just catching the movement coming over the hill because they're looking for that. And as you're moving, your head will like do a little diddy bop as it's coming over, right? So,
Right.
yeah, and I think it's just as important there. It's really huge to make sure that anytime you have a change in an area like that, that you introduce yourself by really trying to look into that area before you're obviously in it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the tips for that. But
Yeah.
man, you're doing so many good things. And a lot of that is just really belief and trust in yourself and really thinking on just a different level that the animals are there and making sure that you're giving yourself a chance to spot them before they spot you. That's the whole thing. It's really no different than when you're deer hunting, dude, as far as that part of it goes, right?
Oh yeah. Yep, you're exactly right, and exactly what you're saying with the believe in it. You start losing that confidence. You start losing that, that assurance if you haven't seen anything in a while.
Right.
You start doubting. Well, are they here or are they?
So when you were talking about that mental part,
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, to me, that is the most critical mental part of the hunt is you have to stay so focused because as soon as you lose focus, that's when it hits the fan, man. And you're like, God dang it, man. And if most people would understand that, you have to love the hunt process because you are hunting for hours, minutes,
Mm-hmm.
days for seconds that are going to happen, right? And
Right.
and here's the deal. If you are making calls, then what you are doing is you are creating opportunity. So instead of that elk being 200 yards away from you because you've been silent, he never knew you were there, you never knew it was there, you're making calls as you're moving, and those elk are acting just like a good D-back in football, man. They hear that sound and they take an angle to be able to cut you off and to get there, just like, a good D-back does in football. So now what you are doing is you're doing the thing so that the elk are trying to find you. That's exactly what you need to do to be successful and have constant results, to have constant encounters, and then to be able to finish that, man. So that's how you create those encounters, man. Otherwise, you're just hiking and hoping that you come across an elk, right?
Right.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right, man. The hard part is for people, as they haven't seen anything for a while, to continue believing that what they're doing is effective. And it absolutely is, dude. I can't tell you how many elk you didn't see because they saw you first.
Oh man, and that's true. We talked about that. It's like, man, what's seen us that we haven't even seen them?
Yep. Or smelled you.
Yeah.
The heard you part, I don't ever worry about. Because as long as you're making elk noises and they hear something, and even sometimes when you're not making elk noises and they hear something, they have no clue what that something is, man. They don't know if it's another elk. They don't know if it's a person, a bear, or whatever it is. They have no clue. I don't worry about the noise part that much. My smell and my sight, Mm-hmm. That's what I worry about more than anything.
Yep. And we tried our best. Every now and then we'd get sidetracked and go, oh, wait, hold on a second. The wind's going the wrong, or it
Yeah.
switched
Yeah.
or something. And we'd make adjustments to where we thought that they would be. So we'd at least be side hilling or something,
Yeah.
or above them or whatnot, depending on the thermals.
And the only thing I didn't hear you talk about, Kyle, is that maybe even just staying in a spot where you found fresh sign, or like when you were on that bedding area and you could smell those elk like that. That would have been a great opportunity to set up and do a little scenario and give it, 35, 40, 45 minutes to let animals at least start getting to you. You know what I mean? And, in that situation, whenever you do a scenario and you give it plenty of time, at least 45 minutes, and you do that, you are more apt to see them coming into you than you walking into them.
Right. Yeah. We did some scenario calling and staged up, getting set up and stuff. And we kind of looked at areas. Okay, well, we've seen bedding here. We know there's water here. We see they've been browsing through here,
Right.
so we would enter an area with wind and thermal being correct and set up and call. And we'd sit there 30, 45 minutes before moving. I don't know if that was too soon, but we would do that. We did a lot of different things, trying to walk and call and, stop every 100 yards and, wait and listen and look and call and move again and set scenarios. And
so for me to do a scenario, dude, I either have to see an animal, hear an animal, have super fresh signs, smell an animal that I know is close by, or it's got to be a time of day that, is going to be more effective and efficient for me to do a scenario than to not do anything or be back at camp, right? So I try to find, like, if it's a midday type deal, I want to kind of be off of some of those bedding areas, and near some of those benches and stuff like that where they can get up and come to me. If it's going to be in the evening, then I want to be in those transition areas between that bedding and where I think they're possibly going to feed. If it's in the morning, again, it might be actually up closer towards the bedding areas where they're coming from their feed areas to that, if I'm doing a scenario. But a lot of times those scenarios are going to happen when I think they're at a destination already and try to pull them off of it. Or whenever you are moving like you were doing and calling, that is actually a scenario, dude. That's a moving calf or multiple cows that are moving. That is a scenario. So it's just and you moving and doing it is what sells it. So you are doing so much right, Kyle.
Well, that's good to hear.
Well, look, you've got, and I tell you what I'm going to do, boss man. I've got, what size shirt you wear?
Large.
You wear a large. I got
Yeah.
me a 10% club shirt here that I'm going to send to you, man, as a congratulations from the bros, from myself and the Elk Bros, for getting it done your first year, going out and doing so much right for somebody coming from, people just ain't that bright in Texas, man. So,
I know you got one on your team, right?
I got more than one, dude. I got three of them boys from Texas, man. But to do that, man, you did so much right. The practicing. And now let me ask you this. Now, first of all, I'm going to be sending you a shirt, so you got to make sure that you send me your information so I can ship that off to you. I want a 10% club shirt because you're now in the 10% right there. So I'm going to be doing that. And I'm really curious, like, having gone through the course, was there anything that stymied you or that you felt wasn't effective that you used while you were out in the field? Or did you feel like you went way more prepared than you could have been?
Man, Joe, I'm gonna be honest. I've done a lot of courses throughout this last year, and I honestly, when people ask about, what would you do? What, if has anyone done this course or whatnot? I put y'all at the top of the list, and I tell people, if you're going to do one, choose this one. I really think that the way that y'all move through, and I love, I don't know what you call it, but the reverse of how you teach.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you want to get to that,
Right.
and there's a lot of content out there about how to find elk and where to look and things of that sort, and gear and all kind of stuff. And you dive deep down to the meat and potatoes of what you're really needing, to do, and you break it down very well, and where you can understand.
Well, thank you,
So,
dude.
and I'll say this one thing that I really love about it is the way that you have your audio that matches with your text through the course.
Yeah. Now,
You know,
don't go selling that too hard, because it's not through the whole course, and there's a reason for it, because
yeah,
I keep adding and making changes, and I kept doing that re-recording stuff, and man, it was driving me crazy. But when it gets to the point where I have a module, and those module parts that are there that are where I want them, yeah, they have the recordings on it. But there's a lot that I'm working on adding, and new sections. There's some new stuff that's going to be coming in, and finally we're doing some stuff to be able to free me up, because I tell you, man, this whole ElkBros thing, doing podcasts and all of our gear and all of our hunts and stuff, has really been a time consumer and kept me off that. But we're making some changes now within our organization that's going to free me up, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to get back doing that, and we're also partnering with some people that are going to be bringing some new things to that as well. So that's really exciting. But for me, when people ask me, literally, when they ask me, Kyl, how are you so successful? I really don't think that I'm any better of a hunter, like in locating and finding and those types of things. I think where the key is for me is on knowing how to finish. And that's one thing that, as a coach, made the biggest difference in my teams, was that when you are in position to finish, you know what to do with it. You know how to do it. You're efficient and you're lethal with that. And I don't care if it's basketball, baseball, track and field. I don't care what it is. When you have made it so that somebody can picture what it's like to be able to finish, that they can see that and they understand it, and it creates a type of muscle memory, in a sense, a know-how. That's the game changer right there. That's the thing that seals the deal, man, is being able to do that finish. So that's why I start there and come backwards. It's what I call success-based learning is what it is. It's not failure-based. It's not on, okay, you did this wrong, learn from it, and now do this. Okay, you did this wrong, learn from it. No, I want you to do just the opposite. I want you to know exactly what it looks like and feels like, and then come backwards from there. Does it mean you're not going to make mistakes? Absolutely not. There's still, this is going to be my 42nd season, dude. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely, man, because these elk are out there trying to live and survive, right? I'm in their house.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, man, if you're that much more prepared and ready, it sure changes the game to be able to know what to do to finish. So, I appreciate you saying that, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all's course and everything that you do. It really has helped a lot. Coming from a flatlander down here, sitting in a tree, hunting whitetail, to going up to the mountains, and it's different hunting. It is, and you got to drill it in your head that to not so much hunt like a whitetail hunter.
Right.
And it's a different style and it's a different way, of doing it. And I fell in love with it. I loved it. And your course helped me, with the understanding of what I need to do, or
Yep.
at least help me understand more.
Well, if
whether
you
I could have brought it to the table or not.
Well, I
You
tell
know?
you what, man, I've totally enjoyed this conversation. This is what it's all about. This is why we call it Elk Camp Conversations. Just me and you having that conversation and hoping the people that listening to this learn from it. Do me a favor, Kyle. I want you to stay on when I'm done here, so I can make sure I get your address and all your information down. Because we'll make sure we take care of that. And I want to thank you, dude. Thank you for being willing to jump on here and talk about the highs, the lows, the mistakes, the things that really thrilled you, the things that sometimes go wrong, man, because it's all part of it, man. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah.
T-shirt.
Oh, yeah, it's coming your way, man. And for you guys out there listening, there's story after story after story of things that you're going to hear that people struggle with, and you're going to start to hear a lot of the same similar things. So if I was in that position that I'm on your side listening and I recognize some of those things, doggone it, those are the things I'm going to focus on, because those are the possible failure points to overcome to help you be successful. So we had Kyl right here at Elk Camp, man. We had a great time today. And I want you guys out there, if you're interested in being on this show, well, just pop me an email, send me a letter about one of your hunts, what went wrong, what you enjoyed. Did we help you in any way? What are some ways that we could still help you, or some things that you just didn't quite understand? And who knows, man, you might be getting a phone call and you might be on this show just like Kyl was, man. This is our second one. I'm looking forward to seeing who's number 3. So you guys get out there, get prepared, keep dreaming of the screaming, keep believing and achieving, but most of all, keep grinding. We'll see you next time.